Good morning. Welcome to another episode of a Migrant's Journey, where I'm documenting some job search stories that can be helpful for anyone who is looking to migrate to Australia, or migrants who are already here, or even international students. So the last two episodes, the one I did with Sauradeep and Reshma, had got tons of views. I'm so happy to see that, and thanks for all your support. Please continue supporting us. And today we have Karthik with us, who is a project manager. I think he managed to get a job within a couple of months after migrating to Australia, but we'll hear it from him. By the way, good morning, whoever is watching this video. Please follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and do leave comments. I mean, that's how I know you are actually watching and not just waking up like a zombie and just scrolling through my video. So good morning. And welcome, Karthik. How are you?
Good, Vinesh. How are you?
Good, good. So all on you. I know you have a good story to share. So let's start from what do you do now? What are you?
Sure. I work as a project manager for an insurance product firm, and we are in the process of developing, cloud-based products for our clients. So that's what I do, as my day job. Other than that, of course, I'm, very active in the volunteer community, and also, part of some of your initiatives as well, helping students and new migrants help settle in and kind of get perspectives when it comes to job search. So
I
that's
absolutely love that side of it. I mean, I don't think you've been in Melbourne for long. I mean, just shows the point that um, you don't have to have a lot of connections. You don't have to be here for long. You can still be a part of community. You can do for stuff. I see you appearing in a lot of live videos. I think I saw one with Naishad, with Melanie last week, and I think you're doing with Yana too, I think, right? So you just have to give to make yourself visible. That's all you have to do. I mean, it's easy if you can do it, right? So let's go back all the way. I mean, what's your story? When did you decide to migrate, and how did you migrate, and what were the first few days or weeks like?
yeah, sure. So my story starts in India. So I, my this, Australia is not the first country I've migrated out of my home country. So I finished my education in India, and I moved to America. This was back in 2008, and I lived and worked and settled in America for like 10, 11 years, and then of course I was on a work visa there, and the immigration process was, quite long stretched, and that kind of didn't align with my long-term needs. Plus, our family, my wife and I, we love to travel, so we visited Australia, and we just loved the country. We said, hey, probably we should pursue permanency here. And we noticed that the whole process for getting a permanent resident visa here was pretty straightforward, especially if you're a high-skilled, person. So that's kind of how we ended up, choosing Australia, and we got our permanent residency a couple of years back, and then we had to line up some personal things
Yeah.
back in the States before we moved here. So we moved here as a family in December of last year.
Hmm. Okay.
Yes.
So, question that would help people in US. How is Australia different from US?
I think it's the same. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
a lot of it is the same. Yes, of course, you're going to have your cultural nuances, right? I mean, things are slightly different here,
Hmm.
but overall, I mean, what we have noticed is, once you have the real human connection with people, and once you really show an intent to integrate and assimilate with the society, America and Australia are no different. I mean, the only difference probably that got me thinking and had a more of an adjustment time was driving back on the left side of the road. Because having used to
Yeah.
driving on the right side,
Yeah.
it took me a little bit of time and adjustment. And of course, you've got those little nuances, accent, and the local jargons and lingo. I was so used to your American jargons and
Yeah.
American phrases. So having to adjust and relearn some of the new stuff was really the only few differences that I saw. But overall, from mindset, from thinking, I feel it's pretty much the same.
All right, that sounds good. Now, coming to the job side aspects of the thing, what preparation did you do before arriving here, and how did that help once you arrived here?
Sure. So, as you can see, by profession, I'm a project manager. So, I take into consideration cost, schedule, scope, time, risks, constraints, dependencies, the whole nine yards, right? So, I think, because it's not just what I do for a living, but, as a family, both my wife and I are, overthinkers and super planners.
Hmm.
So that really helped us because once we got our PR, which was in the year 2018, we really took our time. We evaluated and asked ourselves, are we ready? Are we there yet? Are we ready to actually move? Do we have enough of our trigger points to make the move? So we came up with this, big spreadsheet with different plans and different trigger points to even move from America to here. Because look, we're not moving from our home country where we didn't have a lot of commitment. We have we had a well-established family. We
Yeah.
had our house there. We had assets that we had to offload, liquidate, and all that. So it was a huge move. So planning was the key. So if I were to say our planning phase was about a year
Oh, okay.
before even we started reaching out to people, right? So then once that trigger happened where we were mentally ready and prepared, and of course there were certain events that kind of triggered our move and accelerated our move here.
Hmm.
That's when we started reaching out to people, and I literally started with one friend of mine who lived in Sydney,
Hmm.
and again I created an Excel spreadsheet of all the people that I reached out to, the conversation that we've had, in what areas are they going to be helpful, in what areas I can help them. So this list, this ranged from, not only friends, but also recruiters, people that I had common interest with, friends of friends, acquaintances, categorizing all of that. And then, accumulating all of that information, processing that, and then I know this is going to sound so cliched, but making data-driven decisions on how we want to approach and move forward. So
You,
so long story short, huge amounts of preparation, huge amounts of brainstorming that we did as a family to say, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to approach, what are some of the things that we need to consider, and then that's how we move forward.
you seem to be applying all your work-related knowledge into directly into your personal life as well, which is very interesting. I don't think many people do that, but I think you are well prepared. So good on you for that. So one key thing or one difference that I see, I mean, when I listen to many jobs, migrant journeys, I mean, um, they don't establish these kind, I mean, they don't think that establishing connections like these is the important step. I mean, they mostly think, okay, let me start applying Seek or LinkedIn or whatever it is. So that's one huge difference that I see from your approach. So how did things differ when you moved here? Just because I think you already had some contact points, maybe 10, 15 people who you can reach out to once you're here. So what happened when once you're physically over here?
Right. So even before we got here, right, I mean, purely from a job search standpoint, I think the key was for us to realize what our core strength and playing field is, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, each country is different. What the titles that are put together, say in America, is different from what it is in India and what it is here in Australia. So understanding what my roles and responsibilities are, what I'm really, really good at, and same thing for my wife as well, really helped us kind of position ourselves, right? And then once we landed here, we had already made those connections with some really key recruiters, and also people who could open some doors for us, right? So then once we landed here, we reestablished those connections, got some time on their calendar, started meeting them, started understanding, how we both can help each other. So that's really how we started. But again, none of those interactions were with any intents or purposes of getting something, right? It was more of a light touch, just to put yourself out there. And then if there is a mutual benefit that could be gained, then there you go. But as our preparations would, pave the way for us, within a week of us landing here, my wife had a full-time job,
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
that goes back to all the prep work that we had done. We had already reached out and spoken to recruiters, so we had already had that background. So it was just the right place at the right time. She was able to land that job and start first week of January. So there was that. So that was 50% of it. So then I could focus even more on trying to find the right role, the right opportunity that lined up with my goals, near term and long term. So
Yeah, brilliant. So just before we go to the next question, I see a lot of viewers on LinkedIn, but none of them are messaging or engaging. Either they are bored or they think it's irrelevant. So, hi, how are you? Just waving out there. Please leave a comment. Even if you're watching a replay, please leave a comment. So I think of what you said, Karthik, two things stand out. I think knowing what is it that you want in the Australian market specifically, not in US, and having the right connections proved key for you. So it's a bonus that your wife managed to get a job immediately, because that kind of settles everything down. Now, you have started your journey. Have you come across any bad experiences in terms of job search, something that you didn't expect, or anything of that sort?
I wouldn't call it bad experiences. I mean, every experience is a learning
Yeah.
experience. That's really how I look at it. Look, having worked and lived in a country like America, where things work very differently, right? I
Mhm.
mean, none of my interactions that have led me to projects. First of all, I didn't change jobs at all, right? So I was consulting for a financial institution, and so every conversation, every project that I got was through conversations. So one of the biggest differences that I noticed here was, the importance that was given to, say, a resume or a cover letter, or in general, the whole process of recruitment, right?
Mhm.
So once I was mentally prepared and ready for facing that, really was a matter of then talking to people, understanding what they are looking for, and then a filtration process, right? I mean, some people would say, "Hey, I really think that you're a good business analyst. Look,
Yeah.
I was a program manager managing multi-million-dollar projects, working directly with C-suite executives.
Mhm.
So, for somebody to say, I really think your BA skills are probably more better than PM skills, can can be taken in a negative way. But look, that's that person's perspective.
Yep.
That's person's judgment. Just because they think that way does not in any way, shape, or form change who you are and what you bring to the table. So
Absolutely.
that's really I kept my focus that way when I spoke to people. Even when people said, "Hey, I think you're a great candidate, but you're probably not a good fit for this role," it didn't bring me down, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
So just because one or two or three doors doesn't open doesn't mean you should stop knocking. So that was the attitude that I went with. So because I had that attitude and that approach, I really didn't see any experience that I saw or faced as a negative experience.
Yeah.
Rather, I just took it all in my stride. Left out things that I did not want to do or did not want to pursue, and then pursued things that more aligned with my goals and needs.
I think that attitude is absolutely key over here. More often people, when they get a rejection, they take it personally and they just go down the rabbit hole with that. And that's where I especially like your attitude. You started with there was no bad experience, everything was a learning curve, which is the way it should be. But it's up to you on how to take it. It's up to you whether to take it personally or whether to take it. It's a learning curve, right? Let's take in the inputs. What makes sense to me, I'll take it. Rest, I'll just go keep it there, stay in my boundaries and move on. That's a very important attitude, and that's one golden advice that I can give to any job seeker out there. Rejections are part of the game. If you're not ready for it, that's something you have to change. I mean, there's no running away from it. So that's absolutely good. By the way, I think either your internet connection or my internet connection is a bit groggy, but that's a technical side or challenges of having a virtual event. You can't guarantee everything. So
Yep.
our voice is clear, so that's all matters in the end.
Okay.
But
Yep.
if any of us looks a bit blurry, apologies for that. Now, finally, you managed to secure a role. So how did that happen, or what was the story with that?
Yeah, so literally the same recruitment consultant who placed my wife in her role is the one who approached
Oh,
me with this role
that's
as
nice.
well. Yes. So it was 2-on-2 for for Kate and Jesse. If you're tuning in,
Yeah, so
thank you for
you
that.
can have a family recruitment agency now.
Well, yeah, it just so worked out that way. And I think, again, this goes back to identifying and understanding who those, really standout recruitment consultants and recruiters are, right? You get to understand that when you talk to them, when they are taking the interest in understanding who you are and what you're looking for in your career. Right. I had kind of expressed my interest to work for a boutique firm, a small team where we have the freedom to build something new and exciting. So that's really how it started. This role kind of lined up into those requirements. Again, until we had the first meeting and the first interview, even the employers were kind of skeptical because this was an insurance product company and I came from a banking background. But all it took was that first meeting, that first push, and my recruitment agency gave that push, told the employer that they need to meet me and talk to me, and really I could see the first meeting within the first 5 to 10 minutes there were synergies, and that's really how I landed this role.
Brilliant. So I think the homework you did built down to these interviews and absolutely synced or brought everything together, which is a good feeling to have, and wonderful that you secured a role. So now I see that you're talking to a lot of job seekers as well and migrants over here as well. So what would be your one advice for them? I mean, we have seen a lot of wrong things going out there, and what is some common things that you're seeing, and what would your advice be to them?
Okay, so I mean, this is a very loaded question.
Yeah, I know.
Because I mean, okay, so first of all, right, my biggest advice to anybody who's in the market looking for a job, COVID or not COVID, right, is first know yourself, right? Understanding your true inner self is the key, right? Having the right mindset will come naturally once you know yourself, right? So you need to look inward and ask yourself who you truly are, and are you really what you claim to be, right? That's really the key. We all can put titles and big roles and deliverables that we have done, but have you really done it? I mean, are we capable of doing it? So once you understand yourself, obviously that confidence is going to start oozing out and people are going to start seeing that, right? They need you more than you need them is the second thing that I would advocate,
Yeah.
right? That's where the whole desperation comes into picture, because I've seen and I've sensed, and I've actually even, I'm pretty sure some of the folks who are tuning in who've spoken to me, I've heard it from me firsthand, is do not be desperate to get a job. A job is a consequence of all the things that you do for yourself, right? And as long as you are out there to provide value, people are going to see that, and people are going to appreciate that. So that that's the second most key thing. They need you, because every company is looking for talent, and every company, the most common complaint that you get from companies is, hey, we're not able to find the right person for this role.
Yeah.
But then there are so many other job seekers that are out there available, right? So there's something going on there, right? So yeah, that is the second thing, and then lastly, that mindset, that attitude, right? Having a positive mindset and attitude. It's very easy to get bogged down by things, and yes, there's no denying the fact that we live in the state where things are drastically changing throughout the world. Things are dramatically shifting, and to be able to navigate all of that is probably not everybody's cup of tea, and I get that, but then we need to pull that inner strength and kind of create that environment of positivity around us. That's really what is going to keep us going forward.
Absolutely. I absolutely love. I mean, that start is where we don't put much effort into, because we think we've been working for years and years and years. Our resume speaks for itself. So yeah, that's all I have to do. Just spam it everywhere, and someone will come back. That's probably
right. It's that. Yeah. So if I may add one more thing, it's that reset, right? Everybody, we're all human beings, which means over time our egos get built up,
Yeah.
right? And that's natural, like everybody has that, but I think we need to humble ourselves. We need to tell ourselves that, look, this is a blank slate, this is a clean start. So when you do that, you're going back. So I always quote Maslow's hierarchy, right? So your psychological needs and your human needs, you go a few steps down when you move from one country to another. Absolutely. So recognizing that is key, and that is what will keep you grounded and also make you humble and approach things in a more holistic way.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Karthik. Now, a bit about me, as in you were part of I think that was the last meetup ever before COVID,
yes.
I think. Yeah, fortunately,
yes.
you snuck into that. So what did you think about that, and how did you think that kind of helped the people out there? You saw the kind of environment that was set up over there, the people out there. So you had a good conversation as well. So what did you think about that?
Yeah, so I think you and I started talking sometime last year, probably August, September-ish, and through one of your posts is how I even reached out to Terry, and we took his services as well, just to kind of get a perspective of things here. And then when we got here, I think I attended your January and the February meetups, and the common factor there was the anxiety that everybody had.
Yeah.
About finding a job, how do I approach it, the unknowns, right? For me, the biggest takeaway from your meetups was finding like-minded individuals, finding people who are going through the same journey that you probably also have to embark, and picking up things for what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and really the takeaways that from your meetups or your presentations were what not to do, right? Yeah. And you focus so much on that, and people just, it's human nature again. We tend to not focus on the what-nots. Rather, we only want that magic pill of what to do. And if I do this, will I get this? Yeah. But really, if you focus on the other minor details, you will truly understand that when you don't do certain things, that actually will result in other positive things. So that's really something that I took away, and I'm grateful to you because I've met a lot of great friends who are now really good friends of mine, and through your meetups, I've been able to kind of poach them into some of my volunteer initiatives as
Awesome.
well.
Awesome.
So I'm part of this COVID-19 volunteer initiative, and few of the folks that joined the initiative were from your meetup as well.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful, and I think every person who, especially somebody if they're migrating from India or one of the South Asian countries, they definitely benefit from your meetup simply because most of the audience out there are in those same shoes. So they are able to share perspectives, they were able to share experiences, and that goes a long way in kind of crafting your own journey and your own story as well.
I like the way you put it. People focus on what not, and they just need that magic pill. That's the reason I do the survey at the beginning of the meetup. If you're here for a job, I can guarantee you that you're not getting a job today. That's the only guarantee I can give on that day. But just like you said, those stories, that environment, and that community can push you a lot in your journey towards. Remember, it's not just job search or not, getting an offer or not. It's not a black and white thing. It's about the whole journey. Thanks for that, those great words, and thanks for your time today. We had an absolute wonderful discussion, and I'm sure that would help a lot of people in understanding how to get here and what are the stuff to do. Please connect to either of us, me or Karthik, on LinkedIn. I know he's very active on LinkedIn, so he'll be, if time permits, he can take time and help you out in some of those things. And if you have any questions for us, please leave a comment either on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and we'll get back to you. Either me or Karthik will get back to you and try to answer those questions as well. So, good morning. Thank you. And thank you so much for your time, Karthik. And I think that's
Yes.
that for today. We'll keep rocking. Remember, this session, this series is going live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Hopefully, I wake up every day. That's the expectation, but I'll keep rolling this. And thank you for the beautiful morning, Karthik.
Yes. No, thank you for the opportunity to share my story. And yes, like you mentioned, I'm just a message away, either on LinkedIn. My number is also there, so you can call me, WhatsApp me. I'm here to help. I help unconditionally. So
Cheers.
yes,
Cheers,
please
mate.
feel free
All
to
right.
reach out.
All right. See ya. Bye bye.
All right.